Do the traumatic events we go through, do they just mold us into who we're going to be, or do we have decision in who we become after those events take place? In episode 1929 with Louis C.K. on the JRE, we're going to be talking about that and bringing it into our lives and how we can actually take hold of those events and decide who we're going to be through those events. Let's get into it. I'm Coach Colin, coolest high performance coach in the world. And if you want the absolute best insights to the videos and podcasts you love, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. Louis C.K.
Just those, I mean, getting through that though is like a very unusual education in human beings and development, and like why people do the things they do and why they say the things they do, why they're trying out different kinds of behaviors and, you know, and bullies, and people are pacifists, and people get bullied and you see it ruin their lives. And, you know, it can ruin your fucking life, man. I really feel for people who get bullied, because if you get bullied in high school and you just decide that's who I am, I'm just this fucking loser, I'm just going to hide. And then you hide in your apartment, and you hide in your house, and you hide at your job, and then like your life is hiding now because somebody fucked with you and somebody...
Well, so you were very badly hurt when you were extremely vulnerable.
Exactly.
And you're probably hurt because you already were vulnerable. You already were unsure of yourself for a million different reasons.
Yeah.
And so you never really recover from that, I don't think. It's
can.
It's part, I mean, it doesn't mean it destroys your life, but it's in your life. All the things that happen to you that are horrible, like unbelievable, they just stay with you. They just become part of you. You don't swap it out. You don't clean it out. It doesn't go away. It just stays in you.
You can get over it.
You can get over it. You can integrate it.
Yeah.
It can help you understand what's happening to other people. It can help you even understand people that hurt people.
Yeah.
Like when you get really hurt by people, you have two choices. You can decide to collapse under it and say, I'm too weak to live in this world. Or you can decide to hate them, which is another very corrosive thing. You can just decide that they're shit. They're not human. Or you can look at them and go, what the fuck, why did this person do this to me? And
they've always been abused.
Yeah, and then you go, okay. And then you get an insight that people don't get without that kind of experience. And then you have a self-reliance because you go, I got through it. I did it. I got through it. I think every extreme experience, bad and good, is food. You know, it's good.
Is food. I like that way that he put that. It's food, because food is something that nourishes you, and you can decide to take food or you can decide to leave food. But yeah, I like the way he put that. But to that, like Louis C.K., he's like, you never get over that kind of thing. And that's kind of true. Like I love the way he put it. He said, you never clean it out. It kind of just always stays with you. And I think that's very true. Like for me, myself, like I was assaulted violently when I was a kid, like when I was a little kid by like a grown man. And it was very, very traumatic. And it introduced me to a different type of violence, very, very young. And then when I was older, like speaking to I ended up being violent when I was a teenager, you know, to a degree, but I would always feel bad because I understood what the violence could do to somebody afterwards, because it was still fucking with me. So I knew it could still be fucking with that person. And then as I got older, like as like 19, 23, 4, you know, mid 20s, I kind of put that in check completely, because I was like, I don't want to be something that someone else just can't clean out, you know, something that's going to be with them forever in that sense. So it's like getting that introduction to violence that way, you know, like you could take it both ways. Like, and I kind of did, like I was violent, but I wasn't too violent when I was a teenager, not too violent, but like violent enough. Like I was willing to get into violence. But then I pulled back, and it was because of the same experience. And I was like, I shouldn't do anything to people. Like violence is not a good thing, You know, I always had in my mind, because of that experience, that violence is not a good thing. And I understood it on a different level than most people did. And it always kept me like kind of peaceful. Like it was like a last resort. Like if I had to, like I would not initiate something with somebody, but if they initiated something, I could respond, you know, in kind. Then it's like, there's a situation of like, you know, I'm sure you've heard like the story, or maybe you haven't. You can even Google it. It's like a known thing. Like there's two brothers, and they have a father who's an alcoholic, and then one brother decides to start drinking every day. Not like just starts, but like he becomes an alcoholic himself and drinks every day. And then the other brother decides not to drink at all and just doesn't drink and just stays sober. You know, like I was kind of in that same situation myself. Me seeing my father, because my father is an alcoholic, me seeing him and understanding what road that put him on, actually, by the time I was 21, 22, because that's when I re-met him, that actually sparked it. So I was like, I don't want to drink anymore. Like I re-met him and I was like, oh, this is where it can lead, because I was drinking like in my teenage years, you know, like all teenagers do. But when I re-met him, I was like, I'm not going to drink anymore. And I just stayed away from alcohol, and I always stay away from alcohol. I just don't do it. And then I realized, you know, smoking weed and being so heavily addicted to drugs, I was like, I need to take that out of my life, because that can put me on the same road. And now I'm just completely sober, and I just stay sober. Like, you know, so it's like the things that we go through can definitely, if you don't really analyze what you went through. And again, like they were talking about, Louis C.K. was talking about, like looking at that person, like why did this person do this to me, and figuring that out. Like if you don't have the mental faculties to do that, then the experience can definitely just mold you as it sees fit. But if you do have the awareness to like step back and be like, okay, this is what I went through. Why did I go through it? And then why did this person put me through it? If you can like actually take those steps and look at all those things, then you can decide how that experience molds you. But I don't think there is a situation where that situation just doesn't impact you at all. And like Louis C.K. said, you get to just clean it out and just, that's gone. I don't think you have that option, but you have the option to really get aware of it and then decide how you're going to allow that to mold you, you know? It's really something to think about, because Joe Rogan's right. It's like some people get bullied. It's the same thing with failure. The same way that some people connect to failure and they fail at a thing and they go, I am a failure because I did not execute on that thing, you know? Some people go through an experience and they're like, I am the person who gets bullied. I am the person who gets punched and shoved into a locker. That's who I am now. And all of a sudden they're like 35 years old and there's no more lockers in their life, period. But they still feel like that person somehow, you know? And that is the worst. That's the absolute worst thing to have happen to you. You have to be able to move past that. Another situation, David Goggins, he actually talks about this. I believe he was in an interview with Lewis Howes on a podcast called School of Greatness. If you look that up, David Goggins, School of Greatness, great podcast. He talks about having a $7 mentality. And I believe he was talking about how he had this mentality, like when he was growing up, they had a $7 a month place where they lived because it was like government assisted, and he moved on in life, but at some point he realized that having to go through that experience of being so poor, he was still doing things that someone who was in that situation would do. And he was like, I had to break away from, I believe he called it like a $7 mentality. He's like, I had to break away from that, you know? And again, in this situation that I'm talking about, only the awareness is what allowed him to take that experience and like mold it the way he saw fit. Before he was aware of that, the situation that he was in, the traumatic situation he was in, it was molding him, you know? So it's like, if you have gone through things, you yourself, if you have gone through things in life, you have to really take stock of what's happened to you. Again, Jordan Peterson self-authoring program, like this would be great for that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to bring that into my coaching program as well. I'm going to make people do that. It's so beneficial. But if you can really pinpoint the things that have happened to you, become aware of them, and then become aware of how they could be affecting you, how you could be carrying these things into your life, only then do you get to choose how it's going to mold you, if it's going to mold you at all. David Goggins decided to break away from that mentality, right? But then there's other things that he's gone through in his life that he puts in something that he calls the cookie jar. And those are the things where when he's going through something really, really hard, he pulls them out and says, I've been through this, I've been through this, I've been through this, I can do this. Like, you know what I mean? So you have to become aware. What are the things that are making it so that are affecting you without you even knowing it? That are dictating certain things that you do in life. And what are the things that you can actually take and say, this was a really hard, traumatic thing, but I got through it, and put that in your cookie jar. And it's good to differentiate those things, you know? Or have them all in your cookie jar, but don't allow them to dictate the way you live your life. You know? Have them be things that you can recall if you want to use them for fuel to push you forward, but don't allow them to dictate exactly how you live every single day. You know? I think that's the key in this little video right here. And I love that I've watched pretty much every interview Louis C.K. has done. That's why I jumped on this one so crazily, because Louis C.K. is great when he does interviews. When he's not bullshitting and just talking shit, he is really, really, really wise. Like, he's been through some things, and yeah, just great podcast. Again, the link is in the description. You can catch the full interview on Spotify. If you just want to type in, to YouTube or Google or whatever, it's episode 1920, Louis C.K., Joe Rogan Experience, and I'm out. Peace. And whatever you've been through in life, man, don't let it hold you. Don't let it hold you. Don't let it, you know what I mean? Like, break free of it. I know it's hard, and I know a lot of people have gone through crazy things, but you can't let it hold you. You know what I mean? You gotta break free of it. I'm out.